Greetings, life management students. So here we are, module number 9. Let's talk about two issues that I think all of us experience in life and that we can all gain some good skills on how to deal with them. Stress management and conflict resolution. These are things that all of us will experience multiple times. And it's so good that if we have an understanding of how we can manage them. So what is stress? Stress is a mental tension caused by demanding, taxing, or burdensome situations. So stress is usually caused by stressors. And the stressors could be things like financial stressors. You have bills you can't pay. It could be relationship stressors. You're fighting with your partner all of the time. You're not talking with your parent or your sibling. Stressors could be you're dealing with depression. You're dealing with things that have to do with your own self. And this places stress on us. So there are multiple things in life that can create stressors, and this causes stress. So what happens when we're stressed out is the hypothalamus, which is this gland kind of in the back of your brain, it releases a hormone. And the hormone is called cortisol. So cortisol is the hormone that is released into our bloodstream when we are stressed out. The more stressed out we are, the more cortisol enters our body. This causes many different things to happen. It causes us to be tired, to want to sleep all the time, to be depressed. It causes us to overeat because we're stressed out. It causes us to feel different emotions and to act in different ways when we have too much cortisol in our body. So we want to manage our stress, right? I think that's the big thing you need to remember is our goal here is to just figure out how do I deal and manage stress, because we are all going to have it. Even people who have what we think of as perfect lives, those people are still going to encounter stress in their life. And so we want to figure out how do we handle it. Right, so stress management, the definition is making changes to your life that are if you have this constant stressful situation, preventing stress from by practicing self-care. Remember we talked before about self-care, loving yourself, taking time out for you, taking care of yourself. Relaxation, managing your response to stressful situations as they occur. So stress management, again, is handling the stress. Stress is going to come to all of us, so we can't get rid of the stress. We can manage it. Keep in mind that not all stress is bad. I give you the example of, let's say you're getting married. What a wonderful and joyous time. You're getting married. However, there is stress that comes with planning a wedding, or stress that comes with thinking about making sure you can meet financial needs for two, stress that comes with looking for an apartment together. Those things can be stressful, but it's joyous stress, right? Having a baby is stressful, right? It's a lot of pressure on the female body. It's a lot of stress for parents worrying about how can we meet all of our child's needs. It's stressful, yet it's joyous stress. So not all stress is bad. There are some times we're going to have stress in our life, but it's actually because there's a good thing happening, right? And so understand that. Don't think of the word stress and associate it always with negativity, because it's really not all bad for us. So what are some of the things that cause stress? Really two big primary ones are going to be when we go through what we think of as major life changes. So when we go through things like marriage, when we go through things like divorce, when we go through things like a sickness or an illness, when we go through moving across the country, these are major life changes that happen that cause stress. And then there's those kind of small things that we call daily irritations. Let's say you have a boss that drives you crazy every day, 5 days a week. Right? Those little daily irritations when you have a parent or a child and you bicker or fight every morning about the same old thing, right? They can cause stress because they're kind of piling up on us. So making sure that we understand, there's these different reasons that we have them. And we can kind of look here at the life cycle. And on the bottom, you're going to see, when we're talking about different age groups here, whether you're a young person in adolescence, and we really see that, you know, some of the big stressors here might be more financial stressors. When we're in the school age, you know, with children, some of that, you know, work, family relationships are pretty stressful. So there's different kind of a curve of different times in our life that we're going to experience different types of stress. So when we talk about personality and stress, what we really mean here is that some of us handle it better naturally than others do. And it's related to the personality that you have. In general, we talk about two different personalities, right? In human development, we talk more about where you fall into your personality, but a lot of us fall into a category of a type A personality or a type B personality, right? Your type A personality is your overachiever. This is typically the firstborn child in a family, but not always. This is the child that strives to achieve, very competitive in nature, go, 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 right? They're always working towards excelling. They like to be the best at everything. Your type B personality is not like that. Your type B personality, typically your middle child in a family, is going to be a personality that says, you know, I'm laid back, I'm chill. I don't really need to always prove that I'm the best at things because, you know, I feel good about myself. I'm not worried about it. I'm not the overachiever like my type A sister or brother is, right? That's a type B personality. And what we find out in those two personalities, the type A, the overachiever, is more prone to stress. And the reason is because this person is always like competing. They're always wanting to prove and wanting to prove. And when you put high expectations on yourself, the type B personality is kind of like, again, they're laid back, they go with the flow. And so they don't really get as stressed out as the type A personality. So some things you want to keep in mind is your negative thinking. And then always understanding that there are times we cannot be in control of situations. As much as you want to control things, it's not always going to happen. Things are going to be beyond your control. The more you're able to adapt to change, the less stressful you're going to be. Right? The more we can go with the flow and change accordingly, you won't really feel as much of that stress. So, you know, kind of be aware of where you fit into those two types and understanding that about stress. Charles Swindoll said, the longer I live, the more I realize the impact of attitude on life, right? Attitude to me is more important than facts. It is more important than the past, than education, than money, than circumstances, than failures, than successes, than what other people think or say or do. It is more important than appearance, giftedness, or skill. It will make or break a company, a church, a home. The remarkable thing is that we have a choice every day regarding the attitude we will embrace that day. We cannot change the inevitable, right? Things will be out of our control. The only thing we can do is play on the one string that we have, and that is our attitude. I am convinced that life is 10% what happens to me and 90% how I react to it. And so it is with you. We are in charge of our attitudes. And I think this is so powerful to understand stressors will come our way. We cannot control it all. But how you respond to the stress really is going to affect you and affect those around you. And so having that attitude that I will overcome, that I will manage whatever comes my way, right, will really be helpful to you. So signs of stress can come in multiple forms. They can be physical. When you're stressed out, you can be insomniac. You can be awake all night because you're stressed out. You can't sleep because your mind won't shut down because you're stressed out. They can definitely be mental, right? Those negative thoughts, those futuristic thoughts of failure. I'm going to get kicked out of my apartment. I'm not going to be able to pay my bills. You know, all the kind of just starts to overwhelm you. They can be emotional, right? I teach nutrition and we talk about how much of food is really related to our emotions, not because you're hungry. When you are stressed out for whatever reason, especially when we talk about emotional stress, like breaking up with a partner, a boyfriend or a girlfriend, that 1 gallon of chocolate mint ice cream just feels so comforting when I feel down. Or that pizza, the whole pizza just feels so good when I'm upset or when I'm depressed. Food becomes emotional. And food is not, I'm not eating because I'm hungry. I can eat 3 pieces of pizza and I'm full. But when you eat the whole piece of pizza, you're eating for comfort. It's emotional. And so stress can definitely cause us to do those types of things, feel emotions. And then behaviorally, we are going to act out. We are going to be short-tempered, snappy with everyone, right? When you're stressed out, you're kind of angry. We have all of these different behaviors that come about because we're feeling stress. So stress can come in many different forms. These 4 different ways, definitely. We need to learn how to cope with it, right? So when we talk about some signs of stress, right? Now, definitely when we're feeling depressed or anxious, when we have the anxiety, that's a sign. When we're angry, irritable, restless, feeling overwhelmed, or you just feel unmotivated. In other words, sometimes I get students who tell me things like, I'm having a hard time getting the motivation to do the assignments or to do work because I'm feeling so down. You're feeling stressed out. Trouble sleeping, or sleeping too much, sleeping 14 hours a day. Those are signs that there's stress in our life that we're not dealing with. We're not managing the stress. And so what happens is it overwhelms us. And so when you have those constant worry and thought, you can't shut your mind off. Problems with your memory or concentration. You just lose focus all the time. You can't concentrate. And then because of that, we tend to make poor decisions, right? So these are all some of the signs of stress that we might see in ourselves and in others. So how do we some tips on how to manage stress? Number 1, we kind of read about, excuse me, when Charles Swindoll was talking about attitude. Your attitude is so important in how you feel and how you handle problems. And so keeping that positive attitude, making sure to get rid of the negative talk in your head, the negative talk that just is always stressed out about this or that, or is thinking my girlfriend's too good for me, I'll never measure up, I'm not good enough for her, all those kind of things, that's negative talk. So instead, making sure that you have a positive attitude in talking about, I am so fortunate, I want to make sure that I do everything I can to be a good partner, right? I'm deserving of that person and they're deserving of me. Except that there are things we can't control. This is huge because type A personality loves to be in control. And we have to understand there are times we cannot be in control. Exercise, right? Just as I talked about the hypothalamus and how when you're stressed out, it releases cortisol into our body. When we exercise, our body releases other hormones, endorphins, and they're like happy hormones. They make us feel good. So even when you're exercising and you're stressed out and you're just like, because you had a good full workout, you are happy, right? They equate it to sex, that those same endorphins that come after sex are actually present after exercising. And especially when we do our exercise at night, it helps us to sleep better. So exercise is so good for us physically, mentally, emotionally, and every way. Eating healthy. Okay, when we gouge on the gallon of chocolate chip ice cream, and then we have some cake and cupcakes and some candy because we're feeling bummed, all that sugar brings us to a low. That's what happens in our body chemically. When we ingest all this sugar, we get a high for about an hour, and after the 1 hour, we start to dip into a low because our body has burned off that sugar that we have, and now we're running on empty. And so it's not good for our body to ingest a lot of sugar. It doesn't make us feel good. It makes you feel lethargic, tired, sleepy, all of that. And so eating well is really important. Make time for yourself and for all these different things, your hobbies, your interests, getting your manicure, nails done, or going to get a massage, or doing something, or like me and my friend used to do it to each other when we were in college. We would give each other a massage, right? Just, we couldn't afford to go pay for them, so we learned how to do it ourselves. Getting enough sleep and rest. So we understand what sleep is. Sleep is when you're physically, asleep, but rest is like downtime. So rest means that you're not go, go, go all day long, right? You get up at 6:30 in the morning, 6 o'clock, you're out by the door by 7:30, you have a long day, you get home at 8 o'clock at night, and then you have all these things at home to do, and you're go, go, go. There was no rest in that day. There was no sitting down for half an hour to read a book or chillax or whatever, but we need rest too. Seeking out social support, spend time with what I call happy people. So people that bring you up, not people that are always negative, right? So getting your support system. Seek treatment. So definitely, I'm a huge believer in counseling. I myself have been through counseling multiple times when I've been through some of life's challenges. And I'm a huge believer that you can really, you need to talk through your pain. That's something you start to understand in psychology, is that sometimes it's painful to talk about hurt. It's painful to talk about trauma, loss of loved ones, or unhealthy relationships that have left you with unforgiveness or any of those things. That's painful to talk about. However, when we talk about things, healing comes. Versus when we don't talk about them, when we keep them inside, healing doesn't come. And so seeking out that support is really important. And then, yeah, I know people are like, oh, meditation, yoga, that sounds like, I don't have time for that. That's too weird. I assure you, research shows over and over again how important meditation is. Even we're talking 5 minutes, 10 minutes a day. We're not talking you have to spend 45 minutes sitting there going, We're not talking about that. We're talking about just being reflective. That's why in life management, one of the things that you do is, you kind of do this reflective journal, or you do reflection activities, because I want you to think about, meditate on, take in, consider, right? Be thoughtful in that. So these are really good techniques to help you, again, manage stress. Right, the benefit of meditation, kind of mentioned this here. There's a lot of psychological benefits. So there's some physical benefits. The physical benefits, think about it, decrease cortisol. What that means is when you meditate, you are decreasing the stress hormone in your bloodstream. By decreasing the stress hormone, you're not as stressed out. This is good. Strengthen your immune system. Your immune system helps you fight off disease, the common cold, and all of those different things. Reduce symptoms of cardiovascular disease. The number one killer in America is cardiovascular disease. More people die every year of heart disease than of cancer or any other condition. It is heart disease. And much of the reason that these people die of heart disease is related to diet and exercise, or lack of diet and exercise. So being obese, over-consuming, eating too much sugar, never exercising, those are the things that lead you on a pathway to heart disease, the number one killer. And so meditation has been shown to reduce that. Asthma, type 2 diabetes, PMS, chronic pain. So you can't really argue with research that says it works. Meditation, you can download an app. I have a really cool app on my phone called Calm. CALM, right here. And I love it. It's so cool. It has different little applications if you want to go to sleep. I love to listen to the waves of the ocean. It helps me because I've struggled with sleep. It helps me to fall asleep when I listen to that noise. During the day, you can find a meditation, 5-10 minutes. Even I do dog walking a lot. And so when I'm walking the dog, I listen to my meditation as I'm walking. So really powerful to help you reduce stress. All right, so we talked about that not all stress is bad. And here's an example, kind of like some stress is good. So that type of stress that we feel when we're excited, like we said, you get a new job, right? You get a new job that you start next week. It's kind of like your stomach is in knots because you're super excited, but you're also kind of like worried. Can I learn everything? Am I going to fit in there? Are the people going to be nice? So you have all those things going through your head. And so when we're excited, when we're getting married, having babies, all of those different things create what we call kind of a good stress, right? But it is still stress we have to manage. And then talking about that bad stress. And when we talk about bad stress, we're really talking about chronic stress. See, the good stress usually goes away. You get married, you plan a wedding and it's stressful, but the wedding happens and the stress goes away, right? You know, you have a baby, that stress reduces. You start your new job, you get more comfortable, the stress reduces. Chronic stress means that the stress stays there and it kind of goes on and on. So it occurs when we repeatedly face those stressors that take a heavy toll on us. So if you're in what I call a toxic or unhealthy relationship with a partner who always says negative things to you, that's chronic stress. It's not going to change because that person is not going to change. The only thing that should change is you getting out of that situation for yourself, right? And so that's what I mean by chronic stress. It doesn't go away. And that is something that, you know, is you need to figure out some solutions. A stressful job, an unhappy home life, you need to remove yourself from those situations. That's the way it's going to work, or you're going to continue to be in this state of chronic stress. Right, and so you can look here, you know, when we talk about acute versus chronic, what's the difference? Acute means something that happens kind of right here and right now. Chronic is something that goes on. So if I think of, in the medical field, if I think of a heart attack, when a patient has a heart attack, it's an acute episode because a heart attack happens anywhere at any time suddenly. We didn't know it was going to happen. All of a sudden, I have a heart attack. But hopefully we get them to the emergency room, we revive them, and they go on their way, right? Chronic stress, or in a chronic example, would be somebody that has cardiovascular heart disease. So a heart attack is a sudden event, but cardiovascular disease is lifelong. And so that's the difference between acute and chronic. And so when we look at different stresses here, when we face new challenges, when you have a race coming up, or you have a swimming meet or some type of athletic competition, right? All of those things are short term versus the chronic, which means you have a difficult spouse. You have negative friends. Those are things you're going to have to make some changes to get out from under them, right? And that's the difference between acute and chronic. All right, let's talk about conflict resolution. I like talking about this because I think something people need to really understand is conflict is normal. The word conflict really refers to, you might think of it as fighting, but it really means disagreement, right? So therefore, if you think about it as disagreement, we're going to have disagreements throughout our life with partners, with family, with our boss, with coworkers, with friends, because we're different. We have different ideas and perspectives. And I think conflict can lead to enrichment, right? By discussing something that you disagree with someone, you can grow. We see different perspectives. It opens our eyes to things. And that's good. That's a good thing. So understand conflict is normal. You will not live a stress-free or conflict-free life. We cannot. So the question becomes, how do we resolve conflict, right? We just want to learn how do we do it in a healthy way. That's what we're talking about. So it's a way for two or more parties to find a peaceful solution to a disagreement. That's what we mean when we talk about conflict. So think about conflicts you've had with family, friends, you know, people that you know. What are the causes of conflict when we talk specifically about family and friends? Jealousy, poor communication skills, lack of consideration and or respect for the other person, different principles or values or outlooks, or one person gives more than the other. Okay, let's talk about the jealousy in general. You know, a lot of times my daughter will come home and tell me that some kids at school were picking on her. She's very slender, and they were making fun of her, that she was too skinny. And one of the things that comes to my mind is, you know, they're probably jealous. They want to say mean words and bully you, and maybe they're jealous about something, right? And so a lot of times people deal with, they throw out some angry words or hurtful things because they're jealous. The next two, I think we have to understand, sometimes none of us were raised understanding these two. Poor communication skills and lack of consideration or respect. The thing is, in order for us to get these two things, somebody had to teach them to us. And a lot of times, your parents or guardians didn't. If you lived in a home where your guardians or single parent or whoever were always fighting, They did not teach you how to have healthy communication. How do we talk with a partner about a disagreement without yelling, without throwing things? How do we do that? How do we respect a partner? Again, if your parent or guardian didn't teach you to be respectful to other people, you didn't learn it. And so I want you to remember that. These are learned behaviors. And if you're thinking to yourself, yeah, I guess I never really learned that, we need to learn it now. The reason being, you will have a healthier relationship when you learn these principles, when you learn what is good communication, and when you learn how do I respect the other person. By saying these words, I'm not respecting the other person, right? And so these are things that, understand when you're with someone, you have to think of where they come from. Where does their background come from? Different principles and values. This is a big one. This is really a big one. I think we talked about values earlier on the semester, and I talked about how important they are when you're picking a mate. When you're picking a boyfriend or girlfriend or spouse, you need to make sure your values match. If you value faith, they should value faith. If you value family, a big family, they should also value a big family. If you value a strong work ethic, then they should value a strong work ethic, because if you don't align in those two values, you're gonna have problems. If you have a strong work ethic and you marry someone who's lazy and really doesn't like working or want to work, this is gonna be a problem. And so understand that a lot of conflict comes because we have different values and they don't meet up. And then sometimes we have relationships that I think of as kind of one-sided. So we have one person who's always compromising, who's always patching things up, who's always doing all the work, and the other person has learned to take advantage of that. And this is not a healthy relationship, because both of you deserve to be respected and valued in the same way, not one more than the other, okay? So these are some of the reasons that we have conflict. Hence, you can see why it's pretty common, why we are going to have conflict in all of our different types of relationships. Here's some different ways we can look at kind of resolving those, issues of disagreement, avoiding. Sometimes people just don't deal with problems. They're what I call the avoiders. They pretend like nothing's wrong. Not going to work, because the issues are not going to go away. Competing. So sometimes you want to win so much that you're just not going to give. You're not going to give. You're not going to cooperate, because it's like, my way has to win. Again, not healthy, because you're not going to resolve a situation this way. Accommodating. So you give in without being assertive and standing up for yourself. I don't really want you to accommodate, because all of us should have a voice. All of us should be equal in these, whatever type of relationships they are. Collaborating. So you're both assertive. Assertive is a good word. Assertive means that you share your voice and you say how you feel. And you're cooperative. And compromising. Sometimes each of you have to give up a little bit. It shouldn't be that one of you is always the one giving up everything. It should be that we have to, in any healthy relationship, you are not going to always get what you want. And so you are going to have to learn to compromise a little bit, and your partner do the same. That means that both of you value your relationship enough to compromise, right? And so that's what you want to do. So when we have this kind of conflict with loved ones, so when we're talking about, conflict with either family or friends, here are some of the things you want to remember. Number one, no yelling. I always tell people, yelling is when you allow your emotions to take over your reasoning. And then what happens is you start to sometimes say things you will later regret, because your emotion is speaking instead of your mind, which your mind tells you, don't say that because you can't take it back. So remain calm. So, I have one of my 3 kids is kind of highly emotional. She's very drama. And so sometimes when she is upset about something and she wants to talk about it and we sit down, I have to remind her repeatedly, okay, library voice. let's bring it down, because she gets so worked up and so emotional. And I know that her emotion is overtaking the reasoning. And so just make it a point with your partner to say, I want to respect each other. So let's make a pact, no yelling. If you are super upset and can't talk right now, that's okay to take a break. 15-minute break, you go to your rooms, whatever, cool down, come back together and converse, right? But no yelling, because yelling is just not respectful. It's not. Don't blame. The blame game gets you nowhere. It really does. And so just don't do this thing where you say, it's you always. When you start sentences like you always, the other person is going to shut down on you. Don't do that. And so just don't do the blame. Focus on the issue, not on the way you feel towards each other. So remember I said, sometimes you can love somebody, but right now you're so ticked off at them, you don't like them very much. And I think it's okay to say that. Validate your feelings. I love you, but right now I'm really upset and I don't really want to talk to you. That's okay, as long as you say, let's come back together and talk later, and you cool down. That's okay, but focus on the issue instead of what you're feeling. So if you feel hurt, if you feel like your trust has been broken and you are so upset, think about what was the issue. Why did your partner do that? That's what you want to figure out instead of how you're feeling about it right now. Explore those underlying issues. Again, was your partner raised in a home where they had a single parent who never taught them healthy communication, who never taught them, they only saw them yell? They never learned not to yell? That's what they learned. And we have to learn how to be healthy. And you can, all of us can. And so understand that the underlying issue might be your partner doesn't know that. It's not healthy to do that. You get to teach them that. Right? You get to show them and talk to them about that. Accept the other person's perspective is different, but not wrong. So I always tell people it is okay for us to have different perspective. What is perspective? Perspective is your view. So when your partner says something to you, or your sister or brother or family member says something to you like, well, I think that's wrong. And you're thinking, no, that's not really wrong. You have different perspectives. Your view is different on the situation. But don't automatically think they're wrong. Because the goal here is for you to keep an open mind so that you can try to see where they're coming from. Why do they believe that? What is going on here? Right? We're all kind of different in this way. So I think this is so important. I mean, we're not talking about really deep issues, but I really think, talking about stress management and talking about relationships and how to deal with the disagreements that will happen in all of our relationships, I hope that this is something you will take with you as you leave life management, because it is so crucial. I hope you'll take pictures of the slides so that you can come back to it in your mind when you kind of get into these deeper relationships, or you have family outside it, family that you want to go make up with because you haven't been on a healthy relationship level with them, right? Asking for forgiveness is crucial, and being able to let things go. And again, resolving conflict in a healthy way. You can read more books about it. We can learn more about it, but it is so crucial. All right, guys, I will see you next time.